Hello and welcome back once again, to the Grandpa Bill's Grunts and Groans podcast. And I'm in the bowels of my warehouse here at V8 Sales, where I've been before when I've tried to make these product videos. So I'm putting this one together very rapidly in response to what will ultimately be my PM edition of my Blog Talk radio show. And all of these leads and potential leads are semi-happening rapidly. And as I've explained in previous uh, Blog Talk shows and this podcast and on live air at the radio show and in my blogs and my 3 websites and so forth, that sometimes one of these may precede the other, as I am a sole proprietor, and then depending on when you folks come in and out, as your busy schedules allow you to do so, you may have seen the podcast before listening to the show, all those scenarios that you can set up. The show before the podcast, neither of the two, and what have you. So we're trying to make this a universal piece of information as much as we can under all of those uncontrollable variables. Thank you so much. Point being, this one is kind of dedicated to the new management team at Effective Natural Products, Tanya, and Shane Vaughn, who in my last episode of the Grunts and Groans podcast, I explained how I just found out about the new management acquisition. I need to be brought up to speed as to how recent is, so on and so forth. If the former management team that I used to deal with is totally out of the picture, if they're in a transitional period of management, helping out the new management team in the process of the sale, and so on and so forth. Bear with me now, because previous to myself finding out about what is now the new management team, I had already extended an invitation via the parent website at the contact page under my presupposition, which you've heard me talk about all along the way. Kind of comical, being self-effacing. I said I'm as guilty of it as anybody. In any event, assuming, and we know what those letters stand for, depending on, your degree of taking a joke around the corner and kicking the tires, but we all know what assume means in the joking word. Point being, I was under the assumption that the existing management team that I was familiar with at last doing business actively with that said management team, follow the bouncing ball. I know it can get confusing. I invited Tanda and Rebecca, who were the ownership team when I was actively doing business in my last series of products endeavors with them, being the custom label, private label Canine, Feline, and Equine products as BH sales. This now goes back a couple of years pertinent to that. Thanks for being patient. I've also done product videos, one of which is on Adahs Animal Products website product page, where I also went into depth about now what is 2 administrations ownerships ago at Effective Natural Products, and how I had the relationship with that former management team as Tanda and Rebecca purchased the company several years ago now. My relationship with that parent company goes back now almost 10 years, and I'm going to start showing bottles and so forth for Tanya and Shane, if indeed you guys come through per my invitation, through that long soliloquy to try to bring everybody up to speed on information that I literally found out today, Easter Sunday, a short time ago. When you guys see this, who knows, in your busy work week, I know it won't be today as in Easter. So, as you access this, if indeed you do, thanks for being patient. Hi, Tanya, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, and Shane, Vaughn, as the new proprietors of your new company that I'm just finding out about. If you're here to find out about me, as I referenced in the communique at the parent website, thank you. Now, for your sake specifically, if you're viewing, and then anybody that's watching this, just to refresh everyone's memory that yes, this is another manufacturer that I used to represent. This is my target audience in this new corporate endeavor that I've chosen to revisit again after many years of a hiatus. For those of you that have chimed in at the shows and what have you that now have a degree of familiarity with all of this, my kennel kelp clients who to some degree have followed my shows for years and blogs and so forth, thank you. For my selective invited audience of potential CTFO hemp oil candidates, as I try to formulate a team when and if that aspect of the business opportunity of the hemp oil that I've been talking about, thank you, which is, I'm going to reach over my shoulder here, and probably the wrong one. Okay. CTFO, 10x Pure, wherever you're coming into all of this said information, if it's redundant because you've been here before, ubiquitous audience. Sorry for that. New people, here we go. This is the 10x Pure product. This is the 10x Pure product that we have exclusivity on for the CTFO company. Nobody, exclusivity. Patented exclusive rights unique to that company. That company is the only supplier of this. If you ever choose to buy it, interested in it, what have you, for right now, today, and moving forward, subject to change, who knows when, we are your supplier if indeed you choose to do so, by it being exclusive to us as manufacturers. Thus is the niche market. Talked a lot about niche market. Talked a lot about teaching my granddaughter the tenets of business. Overall, she's not in my hip pocket. I've talked about that before. This is in passing. She's an 11-year-old kid. It's moving forward. Using her as a principal. Talking about Trina Fowler's daughter, who's been a guest on my show, for the CEO of Primal Life Organics, for those of you that know this and or are following this jigsaw puzzle that I've talked about in all of my shows, tying all this internetwork of suppliers, synergistic products, where I'm going with my marketing, where it's going, where it's been, what I've done in the past. So, CTFO, 10x Pure, unique to now the Vaughns new management team, when and if you view this as you do your research on myself via the aforementioned attempt by me to communicate at that juncture when I still thought it was the old management team. All of this information is good, and it's formulating rapidly, and we're all trying to straighten each other out in this busy, hectic, hurry up and go society, which also plays to several of the themes I've talked about in my blogs and so on and so forth. How we market in this society, regardless of the company, regardless of the commodity, And regardless of if we view it as a consumer, which I've talked about, myself being a consumer, of course, and myself as being a supplying vendor, the two sets of eyes in both cases, caps on, caps off, hands-on comparisons, guaranteed products, all of that kind of stuff. All right, getting to cat glucosamine, for instance. BH Sales, private label, bottle, right here, all depicted on my websites and so forth. This is the product as it was, I don't know, a couple of years ago now, easily, when I was dealing with, I'm going to confuse all these names, Tanda, and Rebecca, who were the management team at the time of initiating this version of my relationship with ENP, Effective Natural Products, because I also represented the human products. And then as Tanda and Rebecca purchased the company several years ago, they started the Well Canine Equine and what am I reading now? Feline, I'm sorry, with that I've got in my hand, Feline. Thus is how I did the private label unique to the animal products under that management team at that time, at that phase of my business relationship with the said companies. Thanks for being patient. Reaching back here, you can see ENP, the Vision product on the human side. Again, for the Hansons, particularly anybody that also wants to reference this as you come in to view this over at Adahs Animal Products.com, my granddaughter's dedicated website that I've talked about and created. There's a product video talking more in depth, and follow the bouncing ball and be patient. In that video, I highlighted my relationship with Effective Natural Products when it was under now 2 ownership administrations ago, if you will. So in that video, when you get to see it, you'll see, pardon me, I've got to find it behind me here. In that video, these 2 products are amongst the many, thanks for being patient, in that video, it shows more of the breadth of product of these that I have in my hands right at the moment. You can see BH Sales, private label. This just happens to be the salmon oil that I picked out for case in point. This just happens to be the alfalfa. Again, this is mostly for the Vaughns new management team. If indeed you're here, per my invitation, to try to familiarize yourself with me, how I've done business with your predecessors in the ownership of now your new company that you own. And if I'm being semi-vague, I apologize for that, because I'm trying to tie all of this in through now almost a decade relationship with your company, but now under 2 previous administrations as well. To appreciate for you, not knowing me at all yet, that I have that documented history with your company. And then obviously when you get to retrieve your own internal records and so forth, well, obviously you'll know that these orders originated from yourselves, previous ownership administration. Thanks. And thanks for bearing with that kind of off-the-cuff explanation. Real quickly, here's one that I've always used as a client, as I'm knocking stuff around behind me. Excuse me. I'm just going to throw that in my chair. Thank you for getting it out of my way in my warehouse so I don't keep knocking it over. Thanks. There's the Enhanced Focus Human Product I'm going to be back on this as a client real soon, and I'll talk about that because I've got all these mental focus issues and all of that. So, very quickly, that's the audio, visual, what have you, to kind of be directed exclusively, sort of, to the Vaughns management team of EMP and the well canine, equine, feline, and so forth, as I make communications with you, hopefully, moving forward, if indeed you see that as a viable option for yourself to co-market, introduce yourself, have an invite on my show to advertise your products, so on and so forth. What I would like to talk to you about, if we get to that level of conversation through all of this, meeting the new management team, when and if, is this CTFO hemp to coincide with the hemp that you folks obviously already provide from another supplier and all of that in your products, because, indulging on your patience, if you go to my archival Blog Talk radio shows, one of my other supplying vendors, Trina Fowler, CEO of Primal Life Organics, just last Monday at the live taping of the said show, also has a sample of this 10X Pure. Made a pretty good endorsement verbally on air. You can listen to the archival show as your schedule affords you to do so, to bring yourself up to speed on that. This would be my opening conversation piece, if we ever get to that point of doing so, just to try to give you as much heads up notice as I possibly can about what the subject matter would be for you, especially as you are just acquiring the company. I'm sure your in-basket, for obvious reasons, is just overflowing, and that's a good problem to have because the company's so good. I know that. I've been dealing with you guys for years, not yourselves yet personally. So that's a very hodgepodge, quick synopsis to try to save everybody time in appreciation of knowing what it's like when you're starting a brand new venture. We have that affinity already if we never talk. Pardon me, so thank you for that. Pardon me. While I'm here, I've also talked about the Tourmaline Water for everybody's sake, coming in ubiquitously through these videos, to include the Vaughns, if indeed you're here. This is a product I'm promoting. You can check out all of those aforementioned shows, blogs, websites, going way back to the archival points of reference that I just showed you with your products. You can go to the Wayback Machine to coincide with those time frames to document that I've been blogging and doing radio shows that far back about these products at the time of making the initial introductions, like a Trina Fowler, like a Michael King from Vitality Herbs and Clay, who's also been on my show of recent note, like a month ago, is going to come back, has been on my archival shows from years ago. The proprietor of Tourmaline Water that I've talked about extensively, and how I'm a Google ambassador and a long-standing client and a reseller. And we have a water share program, which is the cases of that you see behind me, that Seth and I, when he comes on my show in May, which he is going to do, through his confirmation of such. Real quickly, for everyone's reference, if you haven't already seen this, this is another fine main vendor, Teresa Gaffney, up to Highland Organics, who does teas and this blueberry powder. I've talked about the blueberry powder as a client consumer. I use it under that. I use it in my smoothies, shakes, what have you. I also use it in my capacity as an ingredient broker. It's one of the many ingredients, and pardon me for turning around until I can find it. It's an ingredient with my private label now, Adahs, my granddaughter's, custom recipe, my recipe, the mixologists and the manufacturers are Kathy Donnell Vicac of Blissful Dog and her assistant Ashley Kelzer. Ashley does most of the formulations, most of the horse products end of it. But being a family-run business, and I've talked about that before, they all wear different hats in the course of the day, and I'm not out there with them to know to the full extent at what time of the day they swap hats and all of that. It's a team effort. They manufacture these with their own fine recipe that's world-renowned, and Kathy's written books and has a histrionics. Their recipe is just fine. This is a custom private blend that just accentuates their already fine. This happens to be the dog butter, boo-boo butter. This blueberry powder is one of the ingredients in my custom blend recipe in this formula. Thank you. My kennel kelp powder, this isn't the strain of the said powder. I don't have the strain of my said powder here to show you, but it would look much like this. It's actually Irish kelp blend. Go to my website at the Kennel Kelp Powder's website, domain name. If you just go to kennelkelp.com, it's probably the easiest way and my best suggestion, because I have so many of these annex websites and blogs and this podcast. Suggestion, I would go there to start out, because it right in the opening paragraph of the homepage there, it directs you in whichever way you want to go pertinent to the subject that you want to find out about. My hemp oil site, these products, etc., etc. That's probably the best gateway, in my humble opinion, to get to all of them, because some of them are long domain names, like Adahs Animal Products.com. It's a longer domain name, so to your discretion how you find out the information. There's several routes. Okay, so kelp, blueberry powder, Kathy's fine essential oils at the core, and what am I forgetting out? I'm sorry. Originally, sacred clay was an ingredient. I've talked about that. We found out over the years. I just knocked something on the floor. I'll find out later. Sorry. How I replaced it with Aquaterra clay, which now Aquaterra clay is the ingredient in this boo-boo butter, because we found out, the proprietor, Michael King, he's talked about that over the years. I found out, we found out from each other's customer bases, the industry found out, etc., that this strain of clay ultimately has a better suturing effect, and it actually does that. It's a suturing effect. Healing wounds, and I've talked a lot about that, guys. Septic pencil, if you will, hack yourself shaving, try it. I've got testimonials on my website, people putting it on warts on their nose or whatever. That might not be the specific example. Go there and find out. I have testimonials unique to the animal products for this. Okay, this is a real quick overview to try to bring everybody up to speed. I still serve as an independent ingredient broker. I broker deals. I've done that over the years between manufacturers. Thus is how I've come up with these products, and I'm now getting manufacturers to interface with each other, because Michael King, the supplier of Sacred Clay, is how I met Trina Fowler. Coincidentally, listen to the show. It's all highlighted on my Blog Talk show. That was the segue. At that time, the Sacred Clay was a different derived strain of clay. Some 9 years ago, it was a Paraphyllite strain of clay. Well, fast forward, Trina's company just took off in like all kinds of positive directions, and she wrote a book and has been on ABC and Dr. Fox and CBS and all these talk shows and podcasts. Well, her matriculated schedule up until very recently, last Monday, never allowed us to talk personally because of that. Well, lo and behold, I've sent her a sample of the Tourmaline Water, which she touted on the show. the 10X Pure that I just showed you that she touted on the show, the new strain of Sacred Clay, which is now derived from a Smectite strain. Big difference. And I've talked at length about how Trina knows all about clays, and that's how we met. And that business transaction didn't work out, but she has 2 very fine clays in her existing product. Now going to Michael King, the proprietor and supplier of the Sacred Clay, who was on my show that you can listen to. He, in the outtake of the show, touts the water. We're not there yet on CBD oil with Michael. I've talked about that. He's an intuitive. He wants to see more research, and I said that and respect that and told him that. And again, it's a difference of business philosophies. We don't hate each other. It's not that type of thing. That's a good thing. However, we agree on so many subjects that he documented on the show. And, you know, where his products have gone. And I've been a client of his products for years. And my kelp is in many of his products. In my capacity as an ingredient broker, I sell to Michael. I resell Michael's products both under my private label of his entire inventory is available under my private label, and or he has a program, we, in conjunction, that facilitates my BH Sales 5025 virtual vouchers that you guys got to do your research on. It's self-explanatory. The quick nutshell version of that is, if you choose to go direct to any of these manufacturers, and I'll get back to that in a moment, those that I have affiliate links for at Adah's website, being Trina Fowler, the Health Ranger, a couple of more that I'll be talking about, those help her sustain the website as far as getting commissions to keep the viability and sustainability of running the overhead of the website, so we can give the percentages of discount unique to that website to our charity of choice and establishing a college fund for Ada. Flipping that over. Any orders that transpire at the old man's Kennel Kelp website, well, yeah, I'll keep those, thank you. But again, those all go back into the business, trust me, to buy the product, continue to promote it, and so forth. Thus is the other potential business opportunity as it manifests itself, and I start to direct my efforts into marketing that to try to establish a residual passive income that I have talked about and that I will continue to talk about moving forward. That's the intertwining jigsaw puzzle that those of you that have followed the show, the blogs, this podcast, etc., and have some history of me as a supplier. I've flown under the radar for years. I've been doing this for years. I've been doing it in different capacities for years, mostly behind the scenes. My Kennel Kelp website is more in-depth, more reflective, more questions and answers, frequently asked questions, product analysis. I talked about that a lot last year in the last 6 months of 2018. At that time, continually blogging and so forth, telling about my aspirations as we approached the then 6-month interval to get to 2019. Boom, fast forward, 2019. Here we are. I've basically pretty much stayed on target for my projections from 7-8 months ago to have a website up and running for my granddaughter within the first 3 months of the year. I got that accomplished. To have a custom-made product with the CTFO hemp oils infused in the said products within the first quarter of the year. Well, we're not. Well, yes, we are. We just ended the first quarter. So I accomplished that. I talked about all this semi-retirement and all this other crazy stuff in another year and so on and so forth. I am an independent associate, so designated for the CTFO. I'm marketing it several ways. If I get a team, awesome. That gets me to the pay paradigm that you guys should watch the video about, because it's just an online webinar for like the 9 millionth time. That part of it, if you click the switch to do it, is exactly what the name implies. It's a webinar. There's no person there that's, you got to give us your credit card, what's your social security number. It is not that type of a thing at that introductory webinar video. So, if you're doing the Craigslist thing or the temp job, or you're looking at the want ads, or whatever you are doing, if you are doing it, and if you are looking for supplemental income, this is just another option like you'd read any ad, advertisement, opportunity, whatever, should you decide to investigate it. Okay, if you do that, then if you want to take it to the next level, it's totally optional. Then you have the option to join the AutoShip program. Save 5% on your purchases. You would meet the minimum order requirement on the AutoShip. That's if you want to do it as a business and get paid for it. That's how you get in on the pay paradigm. It's pretty simple. But it's your option. Okay, so let's, for sake of discussion, say you clicked on it, you looked at the webinar, and you do want to take it to screen 2, if you will. Well, when you click on screen 2, then you get into, because you're at that point contemplating making a purchase at that time. As I'm live on the radio right now, or on this camera right now, talking to you at this taping as I'm live on that, trying to get out these points to you. When you go to the webinar, let's just say you did that, okay? Just humor me. You did that. Well, you'll find out that what I'm telling you at that point is simply informational. You move on your merry way if you choose not to go to the next screen, if you will. Okay. Now, to humor me, you choose to go to screen 2. That's like any website, business, Amazon, brick and mortar store, Joe's Hardware, whatever. That's when you get into the cash out system, and yep, they ask you your particulars if indeed you initiate an order. But understand the difference. And you kind of just have to click the switch to find that out. I mean, I don't know what else to say. If you're going to make us all guilty by association in this crazy world and everything's crooked and all of that, then you'll never know. And I don't know how to make it any clearer than that. So, my point is, that's an option for me. It's not my mainstay. If I get the sales team, great. And I think I will. Later than sooner, for a number of reasons. Here's what I did. I've already got it infused in products. I'm already continue to infuse it in products, both human and animals. I love the products as a client for treatment of my own arthritis. I'll do that forever. And I'm slowly getting exposure to the product that way. And yep, we've already had a couple of sales. And yep, we have a testimonial. In less than, 6 weeks of having the said website up and running. And for a small proprietor with all those variables and without, playing a violin and oh poor me and wine and cheese and all that stuff, it isn't that. But it is real as the guise of a small proprietor. So through all of that, that's how I do all of these products, where I'm coming from. I have these guests coming on to document it. Again, if the Vaughns do come in pertinent to your products, hopefully we'll welcome you at least to the radio show. And I extended, in the show, in this previous podcast, somewhere in all these things that I do, If somebody calls you directly and places an order for the product, I'm happy, even though we're not on an affiliate premise or whatever, because my passion is to see if it's an animal product in your animal products line of, if the said animal from Jimmy Jones in Biloxi, Mississippi, or whatever, gets the product in their horse, cat, dog, whatever, if it's an animal product, and or themselves, if it's one of your fine human products, I'm behind the products 100%. That's why I've represented them now through 3 administrations of your company. So I obviously believe in the products. What I will do is, if anybody contacts you, and especially as a new management team, I've been there, done that, different commodity, same type of thing, as Goodwill Ambassador to help you in your business, if somebody contacts you and asks you for a local supply and retailer via your store locator program, if indeed there is a store in that respective neighborhood of the inquiring person's neighborhood, then I will gladly do that for you. If you come on board the show, you can do that yourself and advertise with free will. I'll give any of your clients that do that, regardless of how they get the product, my BA Sales 5025 virtual vouchers extended. They would have to contact me, so I'll know that, but I'll do that. And then maybe that would be a conversation piece moving forward that we might be able to strike up the relationship to get back to do the private label, because I'll have to market my private label versions of your products by a minimum case order on my website to make it sustainable and viable for me as the proprietor. So those are all things we would have to talk about and take around the block and kick the tires, and would it work for you? Is it worth your time? So on and so forth. But those are ways to explore that option, and I would love to introduce yourselves to the 10X Pure, and I know you have the affinity for the GMP facility, obviously, being one, and you have an appreciation for all the litmus and battery of tests and accreditations and so forth of what it takes to be accredited as a good manufacturing facility, GMP. So I'm going to cut out here. I am going to squeeze in a taping of a show dated today, Easter. Obviously, nobody will see it today. So whenever you come in archivally, I hope you had an enjoyable Easter. And I will see you guys somewhere between all of these venues here at the Grandpa Bill's Grunts and Groans podcast, and or at my blogs, plural, which I am going to get back to this week at the 3 respective websites, or on my Blog Talk Radio show. So thanks, and we'll see you somewhere the next time around. And always remember that BH Sales, Grandpa Bill, and Adahs Animal Products promote good health in all animals and their humans. Have a great day. Stay happy and stay healthy. I'll see you the next time around. Bye-bye.